We now choose all two statements regarding the graph. So the first one is the graph is a function. To verify whether the graph is a function, we must see that if it passes the vertical line test. If it passes the vertical line test, then we see that the graph is a function. So here we have this vertical line. In vertical line test, basically we use a virtual vertical line and we pass this vertical line from left to right on the graph. And if it intersects the graph at exactly one point on the graph, then we see that the graph is a function. Otherwise, it is not a function. So let's take this vertical line and pass on the graph from left to right. So I'm actually doing so. I'm passing this on the graph and we can see that it exactly intersects at one point when I place it here, or I continue to move from left to right. So here also it intersects at only one point, and here also it intersects at only one point, and likewise overall it intersects at only one point on the graph of the function. So there is no graph over here, so you can just close this. I'm going to put this over here. So we understand that it passes the vertical line test. That is, when we move this virtual vertical line on the graph, it intersects exactly at one point on the graph. So therefore, we see that the graph is a function. And this means the statement which is related to this statement, that is, the graph passes the vertical line test, this is also true. We now check the next statement, that is, the graph is a function that has an inverse function. We say that any graph is a function. It has an inverse function if and only if the graph is a one-to-one function. So basically, we are going to check both these statements. So for the function, for the graph to have an inverse function, it must be an one-to-one function, and this means it should pass the vertical line test. So we are going to check all these three statements which are related to each other. In horizontal line test, as like we did in virtual line test, we consider a virtual horizontal line and we pass this from left to from top to bottom or from bottom to top. And when we move it on the graph of the function which we have already determined, this one is a function, it must intersect at only one point on the graph. And if it does, then we see that it passes the horizontal line test. So let's do it here. uh, and I'm just passing this horizontal line from bottom to top, and anytime we see that it intersects exactly at one point on the graph. For example, if I place it here, it intersects at this point. This one, it is intersecting at this point, and then I move it further, so I can see that it is intersecting the graph at only at one point. So we were able to see that it passes the it passes the horizontal line test. So therefore, we see that it passes this horizontal line test, and this means it is a one-to-one function. And since the graph is a one-to-one function, we see that the graph is a function that has an inverse function. So all these three statements are true. And let's check the last one. The last one is a function that does not have an inverse function. We have determined that the graph is a function and it also has an inverse function. So therefore, this statement is not true, which is false. So we conclude that the first five given statements are true, except the last one.